My daughter looked me straight in the eye and said, "Mom, you're too old to understand." She said it softly. That was the part that hurt the most. Not loud, not angry, not the way people speak when they lose control. She said it like she had already decided I was no longer a woman with a mind, a memory, or a right to ask questions, like I was just an old chair in the corner, something that had served its purpose, something people loved enough to keep around, but not enough to listen to. I remember standing in my own kitchen when she said it. My hands were still wet from washing dishes. The afternoon sun was coming through the window over the sink. There was a pot of chicken soup on the stove because my daughter, Renee, had called me that morning saying her stomach felt uneasy. She was 43 years old, married once, divorced once, and still somehow, when she said she did not feel well, my body moved like she was 7 again. I made soup. I cut carrots, small the way she liked them. I added extra black pepper because she always said mine tasted better than any restaurant. I even made cornbread, and while the soup simmered, I found the first paper, not the paper that broke everything open. That came later. This was just a bank notice, a thin white envelope tucked under a stack of coupons on the side table near my front door. I almost threw it away with the grocery ads, but I saw my name, Clara May Whitfield, and under it, in smaller letters, Renee Whitfield Carter, my daughter's name. That made me pause. I opened it. It said there had been a recent change to my online banking access. A new authorized user had been added. I stood there reading that line again and again. Authorized user. Now, I knew Renee had been helping me with a few things. After my husband, Samuel, died, I did not like doing everything online. Samuel had always handled the internet bills and passwords, not because I could not learn, but because in a marriage, sometimes one person holds one basket and the other person holds another. I handled groceries, church giving, appointments, holiday meals, birthday cards, and keeping peace in a family that could find arguments in a bowl of mashed potatoes. Samuel handled bank logins, insurance papers, and those confusing letters with too many small words. After he passed, everything came to me at once: passwords, statements, taxes, property, notices, insurance calls. It felt like grief came with paperwork attached. Renee said, "Mama, let me help. You don't need to worry about all that." At first, it felt loving. She came over after work, sat with me at the kitchen table, wrote things down in a notebook, helped me set up automatic payments, showed me how to check my account on my phone. She even made me practice. "See," she would say, "you can do it." Back then, she sounded proud of me. I missed that version of her. Or maybe I missed the version of myself who believed it was that simple. The bank notice confused me because Renee had told me she was only helping me organize, not becoming an authorized user, not adding herself to anything. So when she came over that afternoon, I showed it to her. She was sitting at my kitchen table, eating soup, scrolling on her phone. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, gold earrings, cream blouse, work badge still clipped to her purse. She looked tired, but she always looked tired. Lately, I placed the paper beside her bowl. "Renee, what is this?" She glanced at it, only glanced. Then she took another spoonful of soup. "Oh, that. It's nothing. Nothing. It just helps me help you." I stood across from her. "Why is your name on it?" She sighed. Not a big sigh, a small one, the kind adult children give when they think their mother is asking something obvious. "Mom, I told you I was setting things up. You told me you were helping me pay bills. That's what this is. Then why didn't you tell me about this paper?" She put her spoon down. "Because you get nervous about everything now." Those words stung. Everything now. As if my questions had started after my husband died and not after people started making decisions without me. I wiped my hands on a towel. "I'm not nervous. I'm asking." She leaned back. "Mom, this is exactly what I mean. You see one letter and panic. I am not panicking. You kind of are." I stared at my daughter, the girl I had raised, The girl whose fever I checked with my lips because my mother taught me that before thermometers, the girl I taught to pray, the girl I drove to community college after her first car broke down, the girl I sat with when her marriage fell apart and she cried so hard she could not breathe. That same girl sat in my kitchen, eating my soup, telling me my concern was panic. I want you to explain it, I said. She looked at me then, and her face changed. Not much, just enough. Something closed. Mom, she said, you're too old to understand. The words fell into the kitchen and stayed there. The soup bubbled softly on the stove. The clock ticked over the door. Outside, a dog barked. My daughter picked up her spoon again like she had not just opened a wound. I felt my face get warm. Too old? She closed her eyes. That came out wrong, but it came out. I mean, online banking is complicated. Legal things are complicated. You get overwhelmed. I raised 3 children, buried a husband, worked 26 years in a hospital laundry room. I have been overwhelmed before, Renee. She looked down. I know, Mama. No, I don't think you do. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. Her face tightened. I'm just trying to protect you. That word, protect, people love to use it when they are taking away your choice. I did not ask to be protected from my own money, I said. She stood. I have to go. Renee, I'll call you later. She grabbed her purse, leaving half the soup behind. At the door, she turned. I'm sorry I said it like that. But she did not say she was sorry, she believed it. That difference matters. After she left, I stood in my kitchen for a long time. Then I picked up her bowl and carried it to the sink. There was a time I would have wrapped it up for her to take home. That day, I poured it down the drain. I know that sounds small, but for a mother, not saving food for your child can feel like a rebellion. I sat at the table and read the bank notice again. Authorized user, recent change. If this was nothing, why did my stomach feel so tight? I called my oldest friend, Pearl. Pearl and I had known each other since we were both 19 and too skinny for our church choir robes. She answered with noise in the background. Clara, hold on. I'm turning this television down. I heard her yelling at the TV like it had personally offended her. Then she came back. What's wrong? How do you know something's wrong? You never call at 4:15 unless something is wrong or somebody died. I almost smiled. It's Renee. Pearl got quiet. What did she do? Why do you assume she did something? Because you said her name like you were holding a spoonful of medicine. I told her about the letter, about the authorized user, about Renee saying I was too old to understand. Pearl was silent. That scared me. Pearl always had something to say. Finally, she said, Clara, you need to call the bank. I don't want to make trouble. Trouble may already be sitting in your account wearing your daughter's earrings. Pearl, I'm serious. She's my child, and you are her mother, not her wallet. That sentence made me uncomfortable because somewhere deep down, I wondered if it was true. Not that Renee thought of me as a wallet. No, I could not believe that. But I knew she had been struggling. Her divorce had left her with debt. Her son, my grandson Jordan, was in college. Her rent had gone up. Her car needed repairs. And I had helped. Of course I had helped. Mother's help. When Renee needed money for Jordan's books, I sent it. When her car repair was more than she expected, I paid half. When she cried and said she did not want to fall behind again, I gave her what I could. Samuel had left me comfortable, not rich, a paid-off house, a modest savings account, a pension, life insurance that I had not touched much because I wanted to be careful. He used to say, Clara, I don't want you begging anybody for anything. I had promised him I would be careful. Now I was staring at a bank notice wondering if careful had been replaced by trusting the wrong silence. That night, I did not sleep well. I kept hearing Renee's voice. You're too old to understand. Too old. I looked at my hands in the dark. They were wrinkled now, veins raised, knuckles a little swollen. But these hands had done plenty. They had bathed babies, packed lunches, worked overtime, held Samuel's hand through chemo, signed school forms, counted change, carried grocery bags, folded sheets until my back ached. These hands were older, yes, but they were not useless. The next morning, I called the bank. The woman on the phone was polite, too polite, the kind of polite people use when they can only say certain things. I gave my information, answered security questions, then I asked, "Is my daughter authorized on my account?" There was typing, a pause. "Yes, ma'am. Renee Carter is listed with online access and limited transaction authority." Limited transaction authority. What does that mean? It allows certain transfers and bill payments within the permissions. Set up. My throat tightened. Set up by who? "Ma'am, it appears the changes were requested online using your credentials." My credentials? My password? The one Renee helped me create. I closed my eyes. Have there been transfers? Another pause. "Would you like me to review recent activity with you?" Yes. The woman read numbers at first. Small ones, utility bills, insurance, grocery delivery, then one transfer for 1500, another for 2200, another for 900, all to an account ending in numbers I did not recognize. My hand started shaking. When she gave dates, over 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Renee had come over during those weeks, sat at my table, drank my coffee, called me mama, kissed my cheek, and money had moved out of my account without one honest conversation. I asked where it went. The bank could not tell me much. Privacy policy, limits, words that blocked me from my own fear. I thanked the woman and hung up. Then I sat still. A strange calm came over me, not peace, shock. I went to the hallway closet and pulled out the blue folder Renee had organized for me. Bills, insurance, house, banking. She had labeled everything in her neat handwriting. I opened the banking section. Most things looked ordinary, but behind the account statements, I found an envelope. It had no label. Inside were printed documents, loan information, a transfer confirmation, and a paper from a company I did not recognize. BrightPath Senior Equity Services, Senior Equity. My eyes moved down the page. Preliminary home equity consultation. Property owner. Clara May Whitfield. Contact person. Renee Carter. My heart stopped. Home equity. My house, my paid-off house. The house Samuel worked 30 years to leave me free and clear. The house where my children learned to walk. The house where my husband died in the back bedroom with my hand in his. The house that was supposed to be my safety. I read the paper again. There was an appointment date, scheduled for Friday, 2 days away. I gripped the table to steady myself. Then I saw a sticky note attached to the back. Renee's handwriting. Do not tell mom until after pre-approval. She will panic. I sat down slowly. There are moments when betrayal does not enter like a storm. Sometimes it enters quietly, like a piece of paper sliding out of a folder. I stared at that note until the words blurred. She will panic. No, I was not panicking. I was waking up. I did not call Renee right away. That may surprise you. A younger version of me would have picked up the phone while my hands were still shaking. I would have demanded answers. I would have cried. I would have said too much too soon. But age teaches you something if you let it. Not every fire needs your first scream. Sometimes you need to see how much smoke is already in the house. I placed the papers back on the table and took pictures of every page with my phone. Then I put the originals into a large yellow envelope and wrote one word on the front. Proof. My handwriting looked stronger than I felt. After that, I called Pearl. She answered with, "You called the bank, didn't you?" Yes, and I told her, the transfers, the unknown account, the home equity company, the appointment, the sticky note. Pearl did not say anything for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm coming over. You don't have to. I didn't ask you." Pearl arrived 40 minutes later wearing a purple jogging suit and church shoes because she never dressed for the same event from head to toe. She walked into my kitchen, put her purse on the chair, and said, "Show me." I showed her everything. She reads silently. Her mouth got tighter with each page. When she got to the sticky note, she took off her glasses. "Lord, hold my tongue." "Pearl, no. I'm asking for help because I have several words ready." I sat across from her. "What if there's an explanation?" She looked at me. "There may be an explanation, but it better come wearing steel toe shoes because it has a lot of damage to walk through." I pressed my hands together. She's my daughter, and that is why this hurts. I don't want to ruin her life. Pearl leaned forward. "Clara, asking what happened is not ruining her life. Letting her ruin yours is not love." I looked toward the living room. There was a picture of Renee on the mantel. She was 8 years old in it, missing 2 front teeth, holding a spelling bee ribbon. She had been so proud. I remember buying her ice cream afterward even though she placed third, because she said, "Third is still on the stage, Mama." That little girl had believed effort deserved celebration. How did we get from that to secret transfers and home equity papers? Pearl softened. "I know you love her, more than my own breath sometimes, I know. But love without truth becomes a hiding place for harm." I wiped my eyes. "I don't know what to do." "Yes, you do. You just don't want to do it." I looked at her. "You call the bank back. You remove her access. You cancel anything you can. Then you call that equity company and tell them no appointment. After that, you talk to Renee with somebody present." "Somebody present?" "Yes, me." I almost smiled. "You just want to scare her, only if needed." Despite everything, I laughed, a small laugh, but it reminded me I still had a voice in my own kitchen. We called the bank together. I removed Renee's online access, changed my password, set up alerts for any transaction over $50. 50. Pearl said 10. I told her not to start. Then I called Brightpath Senior Equity Services. A man named Trevor answered. His voice sounded cheerful in that sales way that makes me trust people less. I said, "This is Clara Whitfield. I understand there is a consultation scheduled about my home." "Oh yes, Mrs. Whitfield. We were looking forward to speaking with you and your daughter Friday." My daughter did not have permission to schedule that. Silence, then his voice changed. "I'm sorry to hear there may have been a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding. Cancel the appointment, of course. I can do that. But I do want to mention there can be real benefits for seniors looking to access equity." "Trevor." "Yes, ma'am, cancel it." "Yes, ma'am." When I hung up, Pearl clapped once. "That's the Clara I know." I did not feel like the Clara she knew. I felt older, but not in the way Renee meant. I felt old like a tree, cut maybe, bent maybe, still rooted. That evening, Renee called. I let it ring. Then I answered. "Hello, Mama, did you change the bank password?" "No hello.no, how are you?" Straight to the password. That told me something. Yes, there was a pause. "Why?" "Because it is my account." Another pause. Her voice lowered. "Did something happen?" I found the papers. Silence. Long, thick. Then she said, "What papers?" I closed my eyes. That hurt almost as much as finding them, because even then, she chose to see if I would say enough. The transfers, the home equity consultation, the note saying not to tell me because I would panic. She exhaled sharply. "Mama, you went through my things?" I looked at Pearl, who was standing across the room with her arms folded. I said, "They were in my house, in my folder, about my money and my property." "You don't understand." There it was again. "I understand more than you hoped I did." "Mama, please don't make this into something ugly. Then come explain it." "I can't tonight." "Why not?" "I just can't, Renee." Her voice cracked. I said I can't. Then she hung up. My daughter hung up on me. I stood there holding the phone to my ear after the call had ended. Pearl came closer. "She's scared." "She should be." "Good." I looked at her. "I don't want to be angry. I know. But I am. You should be." That night, I locked every door twice. Not because I thought Renee would break in, because my own home no longer felt untouched. The next morning, I went to my small desk in the den and looked through more papers. If there were hidden documents in one folder, there might be others. I found old statements, insurance letters, property tax receipts. Then, in a file labeled medical, I found something that did not belong. A printed email from Renee to someone named Calvin. Calvin was Renee's ex-husband. Subject line: "We have time." I did not want to read it. I knew I should. That is a terrible feeling, knowing the truth is waiting on a page and wishing you could go back to not knowing. The email said, "Mama still hasn't noticed. Once the consultation happens, we can cover the arrears and keep Jordan from losing his spot. I'll explain later when it's done. She'll be mad at first, but she always forgives me. She always forgives me." That sentence sat on my chest like a stone. Renee was not helping only herself. She was helping Calvin too, her ex-husband, the man who had cheated on her, lied to her, and left her with bills, the man I had spent years trying not to curse in front of Jordan. And now my daughter was moving money from my account, planning to use my home, and telling herself I would forgive her because I always had. I had to sit down. My legs would not hold me. I thought of every time Renee cried in my kitchen about Calvin. Every time she said she was done cleaning up his mess. Every time I told her she deserved better. Now here she was, cleaning him up again with my life. I called Pearl. She said, "I'm on my way." I said, "Bring your glasses." She said, "I'm bringing my temper too." By noon, Pearl was at my table reading the email. She looked up slowly. "Calvin," I nodded. "That man again." I rubbed my forehead. "Jordan might be in trouble, maybe. But that still doesn't give Renee the right to use you like a bank with a pulse." "Pearl, no? I'm not softening it." I knew she was right. That was the problem. The next person I called was my son, Anthony. Anthony was my middle child. Quiet, practical, lived 2 hours away. He loved me, but he had his own life, his wife, his 2 girls, his job managing a warehouse. I hated bothering him, but this was bigger than embarrassment. He answered at work. "Hey, Ma, Anthony, I need to talk to you." His voice changed. "What happened?" I told him enough. Not everything, but enough. He was silent. Then he said, "I'm coming Saturday." "You don't have to, Ma." I stopped. That one word had Samuel in it. Firm, loving, no argument. "I'll be there Saturday morning," he said. "Don't sign anything. Don't meet anyone alone. And don't let Renee guilt you." I closed my eyes. I don't want the family fighting. Then people should stop doing things worth fighting about. After we hung up, I sat with that. People should stop doing things worth fighting about. All my life, I had tried to keep peace by lowering my own voice. Maybe the problem was not that I needed to speak softer. Maybe the problem was that everyone had gotten used to my silence being the family cushion. The next day, Renee came over without calling. I saw her car pull into the driveway. Pearl was not there. Anthony had not arrived yet. For a moment, I thought about not opening the door. Then I thought, no, this is my house. I opened it. Renee stood there with red eyes and a tight face. "Mama, Renee, can I come in?" I stepped back. She came into the living room, but I did not offer food. That sounds small too, but mothers know. Food is welcome. No, food means we need truth first. She noticed. Her eyes moved toward the kitchen. Then back to me. I sat in my chair. She sat on the couch. The same couch where I had held her after her divorce. The same couch where she had slept the night Calvin admitted the affair. Now she sat there like a child waiting for punishment and a grown woman preparing a defense. I placed the papers on the coffee table. Her face changed. "Mama, I can explain." Then explain. She touched her necklace, a nervous habit from childhood. Jordan's tuition balance came up. Calvin was supposed to cover part of it, but he didn't. If it wasn't paid, Jordan could lose his classes. Why didn't you tell me? Because you already helped so much, so you stole? Her face crumpled. I didn't steal, you moved money from my account without telling me. I was going to pay it back. With what? She looked down. That answer was missing. And the home equity consultation? I asked. She spoke fast. I was just looking at options. For my house? I wasn't going to make you sign anything you didn't agree to. You scheduled an appointment and wrote not to tell me until after pre-approval. Her eyes filled. I knew you would say no before understanding. I had the right to say no before understanding. She cried then. Mama, I was desperate. There. It was. The word people use when they have climbed into a hole and started pulling other people down with them. Desperate. I softened for one dangerous second. Then I thought of the email. She always forgives me. I picked it up and handed it to her. She read it. Her terror stopped. That told me she remembered writing it. I said, you counted on my forgiveness before you even told me the truth. She whispered, Mama, no, do not mama me through this. She looked like I had slapped her. Good. Some words need to wake people. I leaned forward. Renee, you did not make one bad decision. You made several. You used my password. You moved money. You hid papers. You involved your ex-husband. You planned to discuss borrowing against my home. And when I questioned one bank notice, you told me I was too old to understand. She covered her face. I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? For hurting you. That is too small. She looked up. What? You are sorry you hurt me. But are you sorry you believed I was easy to move around? Her mouth opened. No answer. I nodded. That is what I thought. She began crying again. This time, I did not reach for tissues. They were on the table. She could reach them herself. The next morning, Anthony arrived before 8. He pulled into the driveway in his gray pickup, got out, and walked straight to me like he was still the boy who used to run into my arms after school. He hugged me carefully, too carefully, like I was glass. I patted his back. I'm not broken. He held me tighter. I know, but I am angry. Anthony had Samuel's calm, which meant when he was angry, he became quieter, not louder. That scared people more. Pearl came over 2. By 9 o'clock, my kitchen looked like a family meeting and a legal office had bumped into each other. Papers spread across the table, bank statements, transfer notes, the home equity printout, the email. Anthony read everything. His jaw worked like he was chewing on words he did not want to say in front of me. Finally, he asked, how much total? I handed him my notebook. I had written it down. Transfers, fees, and pending bills. 6,840. Anthony stared at the number. That we know of, he said. I nodded. Pearl said, and the house was next. I closed my eyes. Anthony stood. I'm calling. Renee? No, he looked at me. Ma, no, not like that. She used you. I know. She stole from you. I know. Then why are we protecting her feelings? I looked at my son. I'm not protecting her feelings. I'm protecting myself from a conversation where everybody starts shouting and nothing gets solved. Pearl pointed at me. That's wisdom. Anthony sat back down slowly. What do you want to do? That question almost made me cry. What do you want to do? Not what does Renee need, not what will keep the family quiet, not what will make this go away. What do you want to do? I want my money accounted for, I said. I want my bank safe. I want my house untouched. I want Renee to tell the truth, and I want my children to stop treating my love like a weakness. Anthony's face softened. Yes, ma'am. We made a plan. First, Anthony took me to the bank in person. I closed the old account and opened a new one with new protections. The bank manager was kind but serious. She gave me forms for reporting unauthorized transfers. I hesitated. Would that get Renee in trouble? The manager chose her words carefully. It begins a review. You can decide how far you want to go, but documenting your concerns is important. Documenting. That word had become a lantern. I signed. My hand shook. Anthony placed his hand on the back of my chair, not touching me, just there. After the bank, we went to an attorney, not because I wanted to punish Renee, because I needed to know how to protect myself. Her name was Miss Coleman, a neat woman with silver locks and red glasses. She listened carefully. Then, she said, Mrs. Whitfield, financial exploitation often happens inside families. I hated those words, financial exploitation. They sounded too ugly for my daughter, but what pretty word was I supposed to use? Help? Mistake? Desperation? No. Some things need their correct name before healing can begin. Ms. Coleman helped me draft a formal letter revoking any permission Renee believed she had to act on my behalf. She advised me to change locks, update beneficiary information, check my credit report, and freeze my credit. I did not even know that was a thing. I felt embarrassed. Ms. Coleman must have seen it. She leaned forward. Mrs. Whitfield, not knowing a modern system does not make you foolish. Trusting family also does not make you foolish. The shame belongs to the person who misused that trust. I nodded, but tears came anyway. I was so tired of being strong in offices. When we returned home, Renee's car was in the driveway. Anthony's whole body changed. Stay in the truck, he said. No, Ma, this is my house. We got out together. Renee stood on the porch. When she saw Anthony, her face tightened. So you called him, Anthony said. You're lucky she didn't call the police first. Anthony, I said. Renee's eyes filled. Mama, I came to talk. I walked up the steps, then talk. She looked at Anthony. Can we do it alone? No, I said. Her face crumpled. You don't trust me? I felt that question deep in my chest, because the old me would have rushed to soften it. The old me would have said, it's not that, but it was that. No, I said. I don't. Renee looked like a door had closed in her face. Maybe it had. We went inside. This time, Anthony sat beside me. Renee sat across. There was no soup. No coffee. No cornbread. Just truth. I placed Miss Coleman's letter on the table. This says you no longer have any permission to access my accounts, handle my paperwork, or schedule anything about my property. Renee stared at it. You got a lawyer? Yes. Her voice broke. Mama, why would you do that? I looked at her. Because you made it necessary. She wiped her eyes. I told you I was desperate, and I heard you. Then why are you treating me like a criminal? Anthony leaned forward. Because you committed crimes. Anthony, no, Renee. You don't get to dress this up because it's Mama. She stood. I was trying to save my son. Anthony stood too. With her money? I raised my hand. Sit down. Both of you. They both sat. That surprised me a little. Maybe my voice still had more power than I thought. I looked at Renee. Tell me about Jordan. She cried quietly. He was behind on tuition. Calvin said if I helped him cover some old debt, he could release money for Jordan. Then that fell through. Then rent came. Then my car. Everything came at once. Why didn't you come to me? Because I was ashamed. So you chose betrayal over shame. She looked down. Yes, that honest yes hurt, but it also cracked the wall. Did Calvin know the money came from me? She hesitated. Anthony said, Renee, she whispered. Yes, my chest tightened. Did he suggest the home equity? She nodded. I closed my eyes. Calvin, still taking from my daughter, now taking from me through her. Renee spoke quickly. He said it would just be information, that lots of older people use their equity, that you didn't need all that value sitting in the house when the family needed help. The family, people love to call their personal crisis the family when they want someone else to pay for it. I opened my eyes. And you agreed? I didn't know what else to do. You could have told me the truth, she whispered. I thought you would say no. I might have. That's why I held up my hand. No, that is the point. You believed my no did not matter. She broke then, not the soft crying from before, a deep, ugly cry, the kind where shame finally stops trying to look innocent. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I wanted to go to her. Every motherly part of me wanted to cross that room and hold my daughter, but I stayed seated because comfort too soon can become permission, and I was done giving permission to harm me. What are you going to do to fix it? I asked. She looked up. I don't know. Then start there. With not knowing, not excuses, Anthony said. You can start by writing down every dollar. Renee nodded. And Calvin? I asked. Her face changed. What about him? You will tell him he is not to contact me, use my name, ask about my property, or involve me in anything. She nodded slowly. And you will stop cleaning up his mess with my life. She cried harder. I know. Do you? She wiped her face. I think I do now. No, Renee, I need you to really know. Because if I find one more hidden paper, one more transfer, one more appointment, I will not protect you from consequences. Her eyes widened. You would report me? I looked at my daughter, the girl with the missing teeth, the woman with secrets in my folder. I already started documenting it. She covered her mouth. Anthony looked at me with surprise. Pearl would have been proud. Renee whispered, Mama, I love you, I said. But I will not let you make me unsafe. That sentence changed the room. It changed me too. Renee left that day with a copy of the letter and instructions to bring a full accounting by Monday. Anthony stayed the weekend. He changed my locks, set up a password book, showed me how to freeze my credit. He did it slowly, patiently, never making me feel foolish. At one point, I said, I hate needing help. He looked at me. Everybody needs help. The difference is, help should not steal the house. I laughed. Then I cried. He hugged me. This time I let him. On Monday, Renee returned with a folder. Her eyes were swollen. Her hands shook. Inside was a handwritten list, every transfer, where it went, tuition, rent, Calvin's debt, car repair, a credit card payment. Some of it I understood. Some of it made me angry enough to taste metal in my mouth. At the bottom, she had written, total owed to Mama, 6,840. Under that, I betrayed your trust. I am responsible. I will pay it back. I stared at those words. Then I looked at her. Did someone tell you to write this? No. Did Calvin? No. I blocked him. I blinked. What? She swallowed. I blocked him. And I called Jordan. I told him the truth. Not everything, but enough. He's angry with me. I sat back. Jordan, my grandson, a good boy, sensitive too. Quiet sometimes. What did he say? Renee wiped her eyes. He said, Grandma is not our emergency fund. I looked away. Out of all the adults, the child had said it plainest. Renee said, he's going to talk to the school about a payment plan and work study. He told me not to ask you for anything. The room got quiet. I felt sadness, but also relief. Truth had reached another generation. Maybe it would do something good there. Paying money back is easier than rebuilding trust. That is what Renee learned. That is what I learned too. She set up a repayment plan, small payments at first, then larger ones after she picked up extra shifts every month. She brought me a money order, not cash, not promises, a money order. I asked for that. She did not argue. The first time she handed it to me, she looked ashamed. I almost said, baby, it's okay. But it was not okay. So instead, I said, thank you. She nodded. That was all. Our relationship became careful, like walking through a house after glass has broken. You can clean it, you can sweep, but for a while, every step feels uncertain. Renee still came by, but not like before. She called first. She knocked. She did not walk in with her key, because she no longer had one. That hurt her. I could see it. It hurt me too, but boundaries are not always comfortable. Sometimes they're the cast around a broken bone. They keep things still long enough to heal correctly. One Saturday, she came over with groceries. I saw the bags and felt my guard rise. Mama, I bought these with my money, she said quickly. I looked at her. Okay, I kept the receipt. She pulled it out. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was sad what we had become. She must have seen my face. Tears filled her eyes. I hate this. So do I. I hate that you look at me like that. I placed the groceries on the counter. How do I look at you? Like you're checking for the knife. That hurt because it was true. I sat at the table. She sat across from me. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Renee said, "When Daddy died, I felt like I had to become the strong one." I looked at her. "You did." She nodded. "You were so sad." Anthony had his family. Denise was out of state. I was here. I thought if I handled everything, you could rest. Denise was my youngest. She lived in Arizona and called often, but distance makes guilt out of love. Renee continued, "At first, it really was about helping you. But then I saw the accounts, the insurance, the house, and I started thinking." She stopped. "Say it." "I started thinking you had more than you needed." The truth cut, but I appreciated it. "And you had needs," I said. She nodded, crying. "I told myself family money should help family, but you did not ask the family. You took from me, I know. Do you know why you did not ask?" She wiped her face. "Because I knew you might say no." I nodded. "That is where respect either lives or dies." She covered her eyes. "I'm ashamed." "Good." She looked up, startled. I said, "Shame is not always bad. Sometimes it is your soul admitting it stepped outside itself." She cried. Quietly, "But don't stay there," I said. "Shame can teach you, or it can drown you. I need you to let it teach you." She nodded. "I'm trying, I see that." That was the first time I said those words to her. "I see that." Her face softened like a thirsty plant had been watered. A few weeks later, Jordan came to visit. He was 20, tall, thin. Samuel's eyes. He hugged me so tight I had to tell him, "Baby, I need my ribs." He laughed, but his eyes were wet. We sat on the porch. He looked ashamed, though none of this was his doing. "Grandma, I'm sorry. You didn't do this, I know, but my school stuff was part of it. You are not responsible for adults making wrong choices." He looked down. "I told Mom I might take a semester off." My heart clenched. "Do you want to?" "No, but I don't want people hurting you to keep me there." I reached for his hand. "Look at me." He did. "You are going to school, but we are going to do it honestly. Scholarships, work study, payment plans. If I choose to help, it will be because I chose it with open eyes, not because anyone moved money in the dark." He nodded. "I can live with that." "So can I." Jordan smiled a little. "Grandma, you sound different." "How?" "I don't know." "Stronger." I laughed. "I was always strong. You all were just used to me being soft with it." He grinned. "That sounds like Aunt Pearl." It probably is. That evening, I called Denise on video. I had been avoiding telling her everything because I did not want my children divided, but secrets had done enough damage. So I told her. She cried. Then she got angry. Then she booked a flight. I said, "Denise, you don't have to come." She said, "Mama, I am not letting this family have a financial crime season without me." Denise had always been dramatic. She arrived 2 days later with 2 suitcases, a laptop, and an attitude. She hugged me, cried into my shoulder, then opened her computer and said, "Let's check your credit report. Can I offer you water first?" "No, fraud first. Hydration later." Pearl loved her immediately. For 3 days, Denise helped me organize everything. She made a binder labeled Mama's Business. Inside were sections: banking, house, insurance, medical, emergency contacts, passwords, legal, documents. But this time, everything was explained to me, not hidden from me. Denise made me read each section back to her. I said, "You think I'm in school?" She said, "Yes, and I'm the mean teacher." We laughed, but under the laughter, I felt something returning. Control.no, not control over people, control over my own life. That Sunday, I asked all 3 of my children to come for dinner. Anthony drove in. Denise was already there. Renee came last. She looked nervous when she saw everyone. I understood. But this was not an ambush. It was a reset. We sat at the dining table where so many birthdays had happened, where Samuel carved turkey, where Renee once announced her pregnancy, where Anthony told us he got his first promotion, where Denise cried over college acceptance letters. I looked at my children, grown now, carrying bills, marriages, divorces, children, regrets, and secrets of their own. I said, "We are going to talk like a family that wants to stay one." Nobody moved. Good. They were listening. "I love all of you," I said. "But I need to say something clearly. My age does not make me less of a person. My grief does not make me incapable. My kindness does not mean my money is available. And my house is not a backup plan for anyone's crisis." Renee looked down. Anthony nodded. Denise reached for my hand. I continued, "If I choose to help, I will choose it. If I say no, that no will be respected. If anyone is worried about me, they can speak to me, not around me." The room was quiet. Then Anthony said, "Yes, ma'am." Denise said, "Absolutely." Renee's voice shook. "Yes, Mama." I looked at her. "I need something else from you, anything. Do not say anything just to sound sorry. I need you to live differently." She nodded. "I will." Dinner was quiet at first. Then Denise made a joke about Anthony's hairline. Anthony told her she dressed like a weather app. Renee laughed. I laughed too. Not because everything was fixed, because family laughter after truth feels different, less shiny, more real. After dinner, Renee stayed to help wash dishes. At the sink, side by side, she said, "Mama, yes, I don't think you're too old to understand." I kept washing a plate. "I know." She looked at me. "You know." I know you don't think that now." She nodded slowly, "But when you said it, some part of you did." Tears filled her eyes. "Yes." I handed her the plate. "Then remember how easy it was to believe that when you needed your way." She cried, but she stayed. That mattered. Before she left, she hugged me. I let her. Not the full old hug. Not yet, but enough. Healing can start with enough. A year later, the yellow envelope labeled proof was still in my desk. I did not keep it because I wanted to punish Renee forever. I kept it because memory can become soft when love returns. And I needed to remember what happened clearly. Not to stay angry, to stay awake. Renee paid back every dollar. It took 11 months. The last payment came in a white envelope with my name written on the front. Inside was a money order and a note. "Mama, this is the last payment, but I know repayment is not the same as repair. I am sorry for what I took. I am sorry for what I hid. I am sorry I treated your trust like something I could borrow without asking. I love you, Renee." I sat at the kitchen table and read that note 3 times. Then I put it in the yellow envelope too. Proof of harm, proof of repair, both mattered. Renee was different after that. Not perfect, different. She stopped running to Calvin's rescue. That was its own battle. He called from different numbers, sent messages through Jordan, talked about emergencies, talked about family, talked about how nobody cared if he drowned. Renee almost folded once. She called me crying. "Mama, I feel guilty." I said, "Guilt is not always instruction." She got quiet. I continued, "Sometimes guilt is just an old chain making noise." She cried harder, but she did not send him money. That was growth. Jordan stayed in school. He got a campus job. He learned to cook cheap meals that were not noodles every night. He called me every Sunday, sometimes for advice, sometimes for recipes, sometimes just to say, "Grandma, remind me not to be stupid." I always said, "Baby, stupid visits everybody. Just don't let it move in." He loved that. Anthony still came once a month to check on things around the house, but now he asked first. Denise made me a digital folder and taught me how to use it. Pearl continued to act like my unpaid security team. Once, when a man from an insurance company called trying to sell me something, Pearl happened to be over. She took the phone and said, "This woman has a binder and a daughter with a laptop now. Try somebody else." Then she hung up. I laughed until my stomach hurt. Little by little, my house stopped feeling like a crime scene. It became mine again. Not Samuel's paperwork, not Renee's secret plan. Mine. One afternoon, I planted new flowers along the walkway. My niece did not enjoy it, but my spirit did. Renee came by and helped. We worked mostly in silence. Then she said, "Daddy would like these." "Yes," I said. "He would." She pressed soil around a flower. "I miss him." "I do too." She sat back on her heels. "Do you think he'd be ashamed of me?" That question hung between us. I could have rushed to say no, a mother's mouth wants to protect. But truth had become too important. "I think he would be disappointed," I said gently. Her eyes filled. I continued, "But I also think he would be proud that you faced it and paid it back." She nodded, tears falling. "I wish I had told you I was scared." "Me too. I wish I had trusted you enough to say I was drowning." I looked at my daughter. "Renee, I would have helped you hold the rope, but you tried to pull me into the water without warning," she cried. "I know." I reached over and touched her hand. This time, I did not pull away. We sat there in the dirt, two grown women learning how to love each other without lies. That summer, I started a small class at church. Nothing official at first, just a few widows and older women meeting on Thursday afternoons. I called it Paper and Peace. Pearl said the name sounded like a law firm run by church mothers. But people came. We talked about bank accounts, beneficiaries, passwords, deeds, scams, adult children, how to ask questions without shame, how to accept help without handing over your whole life. I brought cookies. Pearl brought opinions. Denise helped make simple worksheets. Even Miss Coleman came once and spoke about financial protection. At the end of the first meeting, a woman named Mrs. Lottie stayed behind. She was 81 and wore a lavender hat. She held my hand and whispered, "My nephew has been handling my checks. I think I need to look." I squeezed her hand. Then look, 2 weeks later, she told me she had found charges she did not approve. She cried. I cried with her, but she stopped it before it became worse. That day, I understood something. Pain can either close your heart or give your wisdom somewhere to go. I wanted mine to go somewhere useful. One Sunday, Renee came to church and sat beside me during the class announcement. When the pastor said, "Sister Clara is helping our seniors protect their affairs," Renee reached for my hand. After service, she said, "I'm proud of you." I looked at her. "For what?" "For turning what I did into something that helps people." I took a breath. "I did not do it because of what you did. I did it because of what I learned." She nodded. "That's fair." We walked to the car. Then she said, "Can I come to one of the classes?" I stopped. "Why?" "To listen." I studied her face. No performance, no rush, just humility. "Yes," I said. "You can come." She did. She sat in the back. She listened while women talked about fear, confusion, pride, and children who sometimes meant well and sometimes did not. At the end, she stood up. Her voice shook. "I'm not a senior," she said, and everyone laughed softly. Then she continued, "I'm an adult daughter, and I just want to say, please don't let your children make decisions for you without explaining everything. Even if they say they are helping, even if they are scared, even if they love you. Love is not a reason to hide the truth." The room went quiet. Renee looked at me. I learned that the hard way. I had to look down because tears were coming. After class, Mrs. Lottie hugged Renee. That nearly finished me. There is something holy about watching a mistake become a warning instead of a family curse. That night, Renee and I sat on my porch drinking tea. The air was warm. Fireflies blinked in the yard. For a while, we said nothing. Then she said, "Mama, do you trust me again?" I looked at her. She deserved honesty. "Not the way I used to." Her face fell, but she nodded. I continued, "But I trust you more than I did last year." She looked up. "And if you keep living truthfully, that trust can keep growing." She wiped a tear. I can live with that, so can I. She leaned her head on my shoulder. For a moment, she felt like my little girl again, but she was not. And maybe that was good. I did not need her to be a child. I needed her to be an honest woman. I looked out at the yard Samuel loved. The porch light glowed. The house stood quiet behind us. Safe, still mine, still full of memories, still full of new boundaries. I thought about the day Renee said I was too old to understand. Back then, those words had made me feel small. Now they almost made me smile. Because I did understand. I understood more than she knew. I understood that getting older does not mean losing your mind. Sometimes it means finally trusting it. I understood that children can love you and still misuse you if they have not learned respect. I understood that forgiveness without boundaries becomes an open door to repeat pain. I understood that paperwork is not cold. Sometimes paperwork is protection wearing plain clothes. I understood that asking questions is not disrespect. It is wisdom. And I understood that a mother's love should never require her to become unsafe. If you are listening to this, and you are a parent, especially a mother who has spent years saying yes because no feels cruel, hear me. You can love your children and still check your accounts. You can help your family and still ask for receipts. You can forgive someone and still change the locks. You can accept an apology and still require repayment. You can be kind without being available for use. And if someone says you are too old to understand, do not let those words push you into silence. Ask them to explain it slower. Ask them to put it in writing. Ask someone you trust to sit beside you. Call the bank. Call the lawyer. Open the folder. Read the papers. Your age is not a weakness. Your love is not permission. Your home is not a rescue plan for everyone else's bad choices. My daughter said, "Mom, you're too old to understand." Then I found the papers she hid from me. Those papers hurt me, but they also saved me, because they showed me what silence was hiding. They showed me where my trust had been misused. They showed me that I needed to stop confusing being needed with being respected. I did not stop loving Renee. A mother's love does not disappear that easily, but I learned to love her with my eyes open. That is a different kind of love. Not smaller, stronger. Love with truth. Love with boundaries. Love that says, I will stand beside you, but I will not let you stand on me. Renee and I are still healing. Some days are easy. Some days a memory rises and the old hurt knocks on my chest. But now, when it knocks, I answer with truth. Yes, that happened. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I am still here. Yes, I am wiser now. I keep my binder updated. I check my accounts every Friday morning. I know my passwords. I know where my deed is. I know who is on my accounts. And most of all, I know my own mind. Samuel once told me he did not want me begging anybody for anything. I think he would be proud that I finally understood what that really meant. Not just money, not just bills, but dignity. I do not beg to be heard. I do not beg to be respected. I ask. And if someone refuses, I protect myself. That is not bitterness. That is wisdom. Final life lesson. Never let love make you careless with your own security. A good heart still needs clear papers. A generous mother still needs boundaries. And growing older does not mean you understand less. Sometimes it means you have survived enough to understand what others hoped you would. Never question.